Little rooms. Great things start in little rooms. I'm Damon, founder of PT Biz, and that is a quote from one of my favorite rappers of all time, Andre 3000. He is one of the members of Outkast, and they recently got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And if you haven't seen their acceptance speech, totally go watch it, because he references this specifically. And when I watched this, I couldn't help but think of the concept of little rooms, because so many of us with our clinics start in little ass rooms. And I want to give you a little bit of background on Outkast, my story, the little room I started in, what that looks like. And if nothing else, if you're in a space that is a little room, everybody starts there. And if you've grown out of that, don't forget where you came from, because it's really important. Now, I live in Atlanta, and hip hop music is a big part of the city, huge part of the city, but it wasn't always like that. And in fact, you could make a strong statement that if it wasn't for Outkast, Atlanta wouldn't be a spot that people think of for hip hop music. Now, Outkast, what's interesting about them is a couple things. Number one, how young Andre 3000 and Big Boy were when they started recording in the Dungeon, their little room. So the Dungeon is a space in Atlanta, which is ironically, actually, it's an Airbnb. You can look this up. You go on Airbnb and look up the Dungeon. It's actually the house that they recorded their first album in the basement. You can see what the Dungeon looks like. It's actually they redid it. It's much nicer, I'm sure, than it was whenever they were there. But it's pretty cool if you're a Outkast fan at all. Check it out. But they started recording in the basement. It was one of their friends' houses. Rico Wade was his name. It was actually his mom's house. And they would go down to the basement. They would line the basement with carpet for noise deadening. And they actually recorded their first album, Southern Playlistic Cadillac Music, in the basement. And they were teenagers at the time, right? And they're just in this little room late at night making beats, coming up with this with this album, hoping that they could share it and make it big. And there was no guarantee. They had no resources, really. All they had was creativity. They had their friends. They had people that were around them that wanted to do something cool with them as well. And they had to get creative, and I think that's what's so cool about having to start with limited resources in these little rooms, because without that, if they had unlimited resources, it would have been very different. It would have turned out very different. It wouldn't have been as unique as it turned out to be. And when you have limited resources, you have to get scrappy. And this is a really important theme to think about as we, kind of move away from Outkast and to some of these businesses. But let me finish by saying this: like, these guys started in this little basement with nothing in, a suburb of Atlanta, not the nicest area of Atlanta at the time. It's still not that nice of an area of Atlanta. It's gotten, much nicer, but at the time it was a rough spot. And they went on to sell over 25 million albums, get inducted into Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And they started in a little basement that was lined with carpet for noise deadening, with their friends. And when we think of people starting, I think in a lot of ways, they want to have these big spaces. They want to be able to have this showpiece of a clinic from the get-go. And the reality is that's not really what happens often. Sometimes that happens if people have, big backers as far as funding is concerned, or maybe you buy into a franchise or whatever, something like that. But the vast majority of people that we work with, that's not how it goes, and even with me, with when I started Athletes Potential with my wife, we started in a subleased office on the west side, of Atlanta, in an area we didn't know anybody, and in a CrossFit gym that was kind of sketchy, to be honest with you. Day one of me getting there, the first day I actually had a patient. Somebody broke into a car right in the parking lot where my office was, and there was a trainer there that had played in the NBA, big, huge guy. Used to take a nap in the waiting area where my office was on a couch, and it would just get so I would be so irritated because this guy would be sleeping on a couch and he was huge, and I'd have a patient show up and he'd be asleep. I'd have to come out and get him, and just like terrible customer experience. But this guy, it was one of his clients he was training. It was that guy's car, and they had broken in, popped a window, stole a laptop, and this guy was running down the street. This trainer jumps off the loading dock, chases the guy down, tackles him, and then restrains him on the ground until the cops get there to arrest him. So this is day one in my little room, and we had a lot of things that happened, whether they were strange interactions with the owners, the building getting shut down because there was no certificate of occupancy, and having 5 cop cars show up one night as I was finishing with my last patient to shut the building down because they didn't have the proper firewall in place. Just all kinds of stuff, man. A rat that was had decided to live above my office for a few months that we just couldn't seem to catch. And these are just not things that lead to a great client experience. But here's the thing, and this is the parallel between Outkast and myself. And I'm going to make myself sound as cool as possible here by making this comparison. But it's not just me; it's really any of you that are going to go the direction where you're going to sublease an office, and you're not going to have these amenities and these things that are going to prop up your business. You can't hide your skill set. You got to be fucking good at what you do. And if you're producing music in a basement, it's got to be really good. If you're helping somebody get over back pain or knee pain or whatever, get back to running, you better be good at what you do, because there's nothing else around you that's helping in any way whatsoever. You got, no client experience. You got no, if no, visible uniqueness to the space that's setting you apart because of the equipment that you have or the access to this technology that sets you apart or whatever. Like, people are coming or they're going because you're really good at what you do, period. And that emphasis of needing to be really good and really care about your art, because this is the thing. We're not rappers. I can't rap to save my life. But what I could do, I probably can't do so well anymore, is I could help people get over injuries and back to things they like to do. And it wasn't like this was just my career. This was my art. I would obsess over outcomes. If I couldn't get somebody a better, like let's say somebody was stalled out on progress, man, it would ruin my night. I would stay up late reading research, looking up, different articles. I'd spend the weekend going through different things, learning about different things that maybe I was looking at incorrectly, or I would reach out to mentors or friends of mine to bounce case study ideas off of things that I just wasn't able to improve. Like, it was really important to me, more important than it probably should have been, obsessively important. But if you don't obsess over those things, you're never going to get out of that little room. You're just going to be there because you're going to be white noise compared to everybody else. You're going to be no different than everybody else. You're not going to help people in any significant way more. So why would they come see you versus go to a hospital clinic where they're going to get the exact same, watered down shit that they get from everybody else? You got to remember that your product that you're putting out, that's you. And you need to obsess over it. It's got to be your art. It can't just be your career. It's got to be more than that for you to really be able to set yourself apart. And here's the thing that happens. You can't hold talent down. You can't hold down outcomes that are like that. You can't stop people from spewing their opinion of how awesome you are and everybody else around you because of how different you are and how much you've helped them. And they've gone to 3 or 4 other people and they haven't been able to get that outcome, or that you actually listen to them and you truly help them with something that they've been, stuck trying to figure out for years. Like, you can't hide that. It's like trying to push a beach ball underwater. You can only do it for so long, and eventually it pops up because the pressure is so much. So you got to realize that if you're in a little room and you start in a little room, and so many of us are in these sublease spaces in gyms like I started in, and hopefully you got your own funny stories about that shit that you had to deal with. Because trust me, I can do a whole podcast on funny, weird, unprofessional stuff that happened whenever I was in subleased offices. And that's just part of the story, though. That's what makes it interesting. That's part of what makes it interesting. And if you're there right now, remember that. Like, this is just part of your story. But the thing you got to focus on is the outcome, the thing you're producing. It's the music. It's for you. It's how you interact with people. It's the outcomes that you get. And if you do the right things for your folks, if they get what they're looking for and you treat them right, you're not going to be in that little room for very long. You're going to be forced to try to decide whether you want to grow or you want to stay small. And either one is fine, whatever, it's your choice. But either way, you've got to pour into people in a way that's unique. And you have to treat it like it's your art. Same way, like when Outkast started sharing music, it was viral. It was viral because it was so good that people would share it. It was like, yo, have you heard this? Have you listened to this? It's not like they had a big marketing budget. They weren't spending money on Google ads. You know what I'm saying? Like that is you right now. That's you if you're there. And also, if you're thinking about starting a clinic, there's no shame in starting in a little subleased office, man. Everybody starts that way. Everybody starts that way. And it makes your story more interesting. Don't forget about that. At the end of the day, the shit you have to deal with along the way is your story. It's what makes it interesting. It wouldn't be interesting if Outkast was backed by some giant music group that gave them unlimited funding and marketing and they had all these people working with them. Like, it waters it down. They're a boy band at that point. And that's not what they are. It's not how they started. And for you, you got to realize this is part of your story. If you have gotten past that and you've been in this little room and now you're in a big one, don't forget where you started. Don't forget to share that part of your story. It's interesting to people. It makes you more relatable to people. It makes people want to root for you because you're the little guy, you're the underdog, and you've been able to grow past this little room where you started. And when you think of these little rooms and the impact that we have, it's massive. It's massive. And so many people that we've worked with, to date, PT Biggest has had an opportunity to work with over 1,000 clinics, helping them both start, grow, scale, and sometimes even sell their businesses. And there's very few that I can think of that didn't start in a small little sublease space or a tiny little office or whatever. I mean, we've worked with people that have literally started their businesses in apartment gyms that weren't even the apartments that they were living in. They just found an empty apartment gym that they got access to because there was a friend's apartment that they had the code to, and they started treating people in that, right? In garages, in basements, in sublease spaces, in gyms, in other practitioners' offices, in office complexes where they knew somebody that owned a business that just had an office that was open and they could sublease. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. These are tiny little places where you get a chance to get started. You get a chance to help a lot of people and become viral by getting them what they want and really show everybody that you're unique and that you have this skill set that is different than the people around you. And that springboards you into opportunities that are bigger. And it changes what you have to do as well, right? It changes the way in which you have to learn about business. Is that at first, you've got to be amazing at the outcomes. You have to be amazing at getting people in the door. You have to get gritty. You have to get out there and find your people and bring them in. You got to understand how to market and sell. And you got to deliver a fantastic product. From there, you got to learn how to be a business owner. You got to learn how to hire and how to lead people. If you want to help more people, you have to become a better leader, a better business owner. You have to understand finance. You have to understand systemizing things and creating procedures and SOPs and delivering something at scale that is similar. A completely different skill set than the start. And the start is hard. The start is scary. The start's also fucking fun. Okay? Don't forget that part. And that's what's so interesting about looking back at it is you look back and you're like, damn, that was wild. But that was fun. It was, intense, a lot of work. But you'll look back, fond memories of that being a fun time in your business trajectory and what you decided to do, with your career and with your art. And if you're on the fence about if this is something that you want to do, like, I hope this is something that is motivating for you. You're like, okay, everybody starts in little rooms. Yeah, for the most part, like 99% of people do. And that's totally cool. That's totally fine because you don't need much to be able to help people. And if you're listening to this and you're well past this and you're a multi-7-figure business, good for you. Congratulations. That's a very, very hard thing to do. You should be very proud of that. And you should be able to look back at your little room that you started in, and it should feel, it should feel fun to you. It should feel cool. It should be something that you remember with fond memories. And you have an opportunity to look at where you started and be proud of the fact that you were able to be gritty and make it work and figure it out. because that's at the end of the day, that's it. We're solving problems. We're trying to deliver a product and solve problems, period. And the bigger we get, the bigger the problems get. But at the end of the day, we all start in little rooms, and that is across the board in many different industries. It could be Outkast, it could be Jeff Bezos starting in his garage with Amazon. It could be Apple starting in their garage, right? With what's his name, Wozniak and Steve Jobs. These little businesses that start in these little spaces that grow into these huge businesses over time because of a founder and work and being able to put in effort towards the goals that you have. And this is just one more example of it in a different arena, but with especially an artist that is one of my favorites with Andre 3000, both as a rapper. I mean, I went and I watched this guy play the flute, for God's sakes, at a concert here in Atlanta, and it was one of the weirder things I've ever seen. But yet at the same time, it was like this guy's just doing the shit that he likes to do, man. Like it was awesome at the same time. It was weird and awesome at the same time. That's how much I appreciate Andre 3000 and just like his willingness to be himself and him sharing the concept of these little rooms. It just hit me because we legitimately start our businesses in little rooms. And if you're there right now, congrats on getting there. If you've gotten past it, congrats on getting past it. And if you're thinking about going there, dude, don't be ashamed of your shitty little room with no windows with a rat above your head. Everybody's got to start somewhere.